Some people believe that the reports of what happened there are exaggerated. No words could exaggerate. We saw and we know.
Of the 928 attempted escapes from Auschwitz, only 196 succeeded. So in July 1941, when 3 prisoners went missing, the guards decided to take action. At the roll call in the square, 10 men were selected at random to die by starvation in Block 11. As the names were read out, one man fell to his knees. He was a sergeant in the Polish army, a husband and a father. He pleaded for his life. One man then suddenly stepped forward to die in the man's place. Without even a thought, the guards threw the volunteer into the cell, simply taking his number, 16670. Over the next 14 days, he sang hymns in praise to God and prayed for the dying men as they faded away. When the cell door was finally opened, only the volunteer was alive. The guards prepared a lethal injection to finish him off. Witnesses said that prisoner 16670 bravely raised his arm to the needle. Even his executioners said they had never met anyone else like him.
You cannot photograph suffering, only its results. In pictures you have no smell of disease and death. Here you see no more than a fragment of the full pattern of horror.
Auschwitz, a name that chills the soul, a place where humanity's darkest and most evil instinct is laid bare. Not just a concentration camp, but a sprawling complex of suffering where over 1 million lives were reduced to ash. The railway tracks that led through its gates were the final destination of so many innocent people who were hoarded into carriages like cattle in filth and fear. Mothers clutched hold of their children while old men stared into the abyss of an uncertain future. A simple flick of an officer's finger determined life or death. To the left, a temporary reprieve. To the right, the gas chambers disguised as showers. By 1942, Auschwitz-Birkenau had been expanded into a vast complex of huts, labour camps, and an extermination site. Over 1 million people died within its perimeter fence, and even after all these years, the atmosphere is extremely unusual. The acrid stench of death and the billowing smoke from the chimneys has all gone, but it's impossible to walk around this place without imagining the past. New arrivals who were deemed strong enough to work immediately became slaves, their bodies whittled down to skin and bones over the months that followed, wrapped in those awful striped garments. People's names were literally erased from their identities, replaced by tattooed numbers on their arms. Even if a prisoner had the physical strength to even attempt an escape, the barbed wire and the machine guns were waiting for them. Many decades later, a survivor aged 105 said this:
Auschwitz was really a killer factory. We were the fuel from this place. You will not go out alive, only through the chimney.
Many prisoners were subjected to horrific medical procedures carried out by Josef Mengele. He performed operations without any anaesthetic and exposed people to deadly diseases and genetic experiments. Anne Frank, the young Jewish girl from Amsterdam, whose personal diary became a record of the Holocaust, was brought to Auschwitz in 1944, along with her family. Her and her sister were later transferred to Bergen-Belsen, where they perished. Their father, Otto, was the only member of their family to survive the war. He published his daughter's writings as a personal testament to the horrors of those years.
It took me a very long time to read it. And I must say, I was very much surprised.
Even in the midst of such cruelty, stories of resilience emerged. Some people whispered forbidden prayers while others shared their food rations with the starving. One Jewish doctor bravely carried out treatments and medical procedures to prevent pregnant women from being executed. Among the prisoners who walked through Auschwitz was a man of unwavering love. His name was Maximilian Kolbe. He was a Polish Catholic priest. Though frequently singled out for brutal torture and always denied medical care, he never ceased sharing friendship and food with his fellow prisoners. To those who were on the verge of completely losing hope, he reminded them that they were still human and they were still loved by God. Father Kolbe had been imprisoned earlier in the war for shielding 3,000 unwanted and vulnerable people in the monastery where he worked. For that, he was dragged into the street, tortured, thrown into a brutal prison in Warsaw, and then sometime later brought here to Auschwitz and branded prisoner 16670. During that brutal summer of 1941, when those 10 men were sentenced to die by starvation, it was Father Kolbe who volunteered to take the place of the other man. "I'm a Catholic priest," he said. "I have no family. Please take me instead of this poor man." In a place where hope came to die, Father Kolbe became a beacon of selfless love. The man who he spared said this: "I could only thank him with my eyes. I could hardly grasp what was going on. I, the condemned, am to live, and a stranger willingly offers his life for me. Is this a dream?" As the men slowly perished in that bunker, Maximilian Kolbe prayed for the living and comforted the dying. While others lay broken on the floor, Kolbe always stood upright and greeted his tormentors when they entered the cell with a peace that none of them could understand. After his life was taken from him on August the 14th, his body was unceremoniously burned along with the others. After it was all over, a camp officer said this: "The priest was a good man. I've never seen anybody else like him." The man who was ransomed by Kolbe survived Auschwitz and the war and went on to live to 95 years of age. He committed the rest of his life to telling the story to anyone who would listen privately and publicly about the man of God who died in his place.
I carry with myself a great debt to St. Maximilian Kolbe. I'm one of the survivors, and my responsibility, my duty is to share my experience with future generations. We have to learn to respect life. We have to learn to respect each other, and not only individually, but also as nations.
In 1982, he stood alongside his wife, his children, and his grandchildren in a crowd of 150,000 people in St. Peter's Square in Rome. Pope John Paul II canonised Father Maximilian Kolbe, comparing his life and his sacrifice to that of Jesus 2,000 years ago. On January the 27th, 1945, Soviet troops liberated Auschwitz-Birkenau and were immediately confronted with a vast, sprawling landscape of skeletal survivors, their hollow eyes hiding stories too harrowing for words. The gates were finally opened, but the shadows would never truly disappear.